We took quite a bit of time on the previous video to talk about how to work these problems. We're going to be picking up the pace just a little bit right now, so you might want to pause the video at various times to go ahead and understand what we've done. Our next example, 4x plus 1 is equal to 8x plus 13. Again, we identify the variable terms and the numbers. We want the variable terms on one side, the numbers on the other. So again, I choose to put the variables on the left, the numbers on the right. So on the second line, you can see that I want to move the positive 1 and get rid of it, and I want to get rid of the 8x. Those are the two terms that I'm going to move. We're going to do that by taking the opposite of each of those terms and adding that to both sides. The way one on the left-hand side, you can take a look at that if you like that. I'm going to talk about way 2 on the right-hand side. So the second line, we have negative 8x equals negative 8x. So the 8x is what we wanted to move. Its opposite is a negative 8x. So we're going to add negative 8x to both sides, which is the same as subtracting 8x from both sides. When we do that, we have 4 minus 8 gives us negative 4x. We don't have anything added to the 1 at this time, so we bring it down. 8x minus 8x gives us 0x, which is 0, and we bring down 13. Going back to our problem, the 1 was what we wanted to get rid of. We do that by taking its opposite, negative 1 on both sides. Then when we combine and do our addition, we have negative 4x is equal to positive 12. Now we're going to go back over to the left where we have the same line. The coefficient of the x is a negative 4, so we're going to divide both sides by negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 gives us positive 1x. 12 divided by negative 4 gives us negative 3. So we think our answer to this problem is a negative 3. We're going to check and see if that's true. The way that we do that again is for every letter we replace it by a set of parentheses. Then we put our answer, which we think is x is equal to negative 3, so we place the negative 3 inside the parentheses, and then we go through and do our please excuse my dear Aunt Sally rules. So 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 plus 1 gives us negative 11 on the left. 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. Negative 24 plus 13 is also minus 11. So this problem checks. Again, if we ended up with something like negative 11 equals 10, it would not check, which means either our check was incorrect or our solution was incorrect. And we might just have to try to resolve it again and do the check again, or we might have to go back and rework the entire problem. Here's the exact same problem, except this time we're working that problem by putting the variables on the right-hand side rather than the left-hand side. So this means that if we want only numbers on the left, then 4x is going to move, 1 stays, 8x will stay, we want our variables on the right, and 13 will move. So as we try to make that happen down here, we subtract 4x from both sides. We have 1 is equal to 4x plus 13. We wanted to get rid of the 13 by taking a negative 13 on both sides. When we combine our like terms, we get negative 12 is equal to 4x. And at this point, we work it just like we did over here on the right-hand side. Divide both sides by 4, since that's the coefficient of the x. And we have negative 12 divided by positive 4 gives us negative 3 is equal to x, which is the same answer that we just had. On page 7, I would like you to try these 3 problems. They're all just a little bit different, and also check your solution. The answers to these problems are on the following page, so you can go check them if you need to, but try to do them on your own first by referring back to the other examples. When you've completed those, then turn the video back on and we'll talk about the rest of the chapter. How'd those go for you? On the first problem, 2x is a variable, 1 is a number, and 9 is a number. So the simplest thing to do in this problem is to leave the only variable where it is and to get rid of that positive 1. We do that by subtracting 1 from both sides, and then we get 2x is equal to 8. divide by the coefficient of the x, which is 2. On problem number 2, it has a variable term and a number on each side. I chose on that to put my variables on the left-hand side. By doing that, that means that the negative 7 needs to be moved and this 2x needs to be moved. We do that by taking the opposite of each of those. So the opposite of 2x is negative 2x, so we subtract 2x on both sides. When we combine like terms, we get x minus 7 is equal to negative 1. The negative 1 over here is going to stay where it is. The negative 7 is the term that we want to try to get rid of. We do that by taking the opposite of that, which is positive 7. We add that to both sides, and then we get x is equal to positive 6. And when we do our checks, we get 11 is equal to 11. On problem number 3, again, it has a variable and a number, and a variable and a number. On this one, again, I'm going to choose to put my variables on the left, so that means that we want to get rid of this 3, and we want to get rid of this 9x. We do that by taking their opposites, so minus 9x and minus 9x on each side. Combining terms that are alike, we get negative 2x plus 3 is equal to negative 5. Then we want to get rid of this positive 3 by adding a negative 3 to both sides. That gives us negative 2x is equal to negative 8. At that point, we divide by whatever our coefficient is, which is the negative 2, and when we do that, we have x is equal to 4. The problems that you just worked and the ones that we've worked up to this time are the same way that you'll work problems 1, 2, 3, and number 10 on your practice test 5. So if you want to pause the video to pull out practice test 5, you might want to do that. Again, it's problems 1, 2, 3, and 10 are worked identical to the ones that we've worked up to this point. They don't have any of the steps on 1 and 2 of that six-step process for solving equations. You're going to start out at step 3 and then execute 3, 4, 5, and 6 for problems 1, 2, 3, and 10 on the practice test. The other problems that are on that first page, 1 through 12 of the practice test, with the exception of those, have the following procedures that you'll need to do as you work them. And you can see that those other problems on the practice test have parentheses. When we have parentheses, then we have to do our multiplication first using the distributive property that we learned in class 1 and that we also had in class 3. So on this problem that we have right here, our first step is going to be taking the number that's in front of the parentheses and multiplying it by each and every term that's inside. So 2 times 2x is 4x, and 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. On the right hand side, 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And in the next one, we have a minus sign with no number behind it, and then the parentheses. There's an imaginary 1 there, so it's negative 1 times 3, which is negative 3, and negative 1 times negative x for a positive x. So when it's just a negative sign out in front of a parentheses, the sign of every term inside the parentheses is going to change. So that was step 1, to get rid of those parentheses. Step 2 of the equation solving process is to combine terms that are alike on each side. On the left-hand side, we have one variable and one number. There's nothing we can do. But on the right-hand side, we have 4x and 1x. We combine those by adding together the numerical coefficients, and we have 5x. Then we have negative 8 minus 3, which gives us negative 11. So when you have terms or numbers on the same side of the equal sign, step 2 says combine terms that are alike first. From this point on, it works identical to the other problems that we've worked. You have a variable and a number on both sides. So you're going to subtract 5x from both sides. You're going to add 6 to both sides. And when you do that, you get negative x is equal to negative 5. Since we're solving this for positive x, we have to divide both sides by negative 1, and that gives us x is equal to 5. then we can see that our check works.